Chapter 13, Discipline, the Final Frontier, Q&A. Bev, won't you please explain your opening statement, which I found to be very profound? There are 3 I's in discipline. I should be disciplined before I discipline, so that I may discipline for my children's sake, not my own.
Thank you. Yes, I thought a long time before I came up with anything for the entrance to this chapter, because it's such a profound topic, isn't it? I think it is so important when we're disciplining that we do not act on anything we're feeling until we have processed it. Unless we can process it at such a rapid rate, because we have evolved to that space where it comes out as a response and not a reaction. So in the political forum, if something goes badly, they'll say, well, he reacted to it. But if what happens goes well, they'll say he responded in this way. And there's a different energy attached to it. And it doesn't matter if I'm engaging with my partner or my child or with friends or with whomever. It makes no difference. A reaction is something that happens, and I might not be proud of it tomorrow, and a response generally is something I've processed and come out with, and I'm going to be proud of it tomorrow. If I am not disciplined, there's no way I can hold myself in the moment of frustration or being pushed to the limit and get the right thing out for my child. There's no way. I'm going to pop and I'm going to react, and we need to think 20 years ahead. Never mind 20 minutes ahead. What will this person be looking back on their childhood about and saying, well, this is how this always happened, or this is how that always happened. And we can always sit around and reflect like that, because that is what happens in our adulthood. We start to realize that the sources of our inadequacy and the sources of our fears and the sources of our distancing ourselves from vulnerability, which is the only place we can truly explore ourselves in relationship to ourselves and to others, always goes back to things that happened in our past. It can be a year ago, it can be 2 decades ago, but it's down there somewhere. And as parents, isn't it our role to try and minimize the amount that our children have to reflect on one day?
Can you explain what you mean by it is still their journey, not ours? Because I'm not sure it's an easy concept for parents to grasp. What do you mean by journey? And are you suggesting that we be detached from the outcome of that journey since it is theirs to lead?
It's a great question. It is one of my biggest passions in mentoring parents and the relationship people have with their children. A lot of parents have a very clear expectation of what their children will do, become, and be involved with. There's no question about that. They also have wrapped up into that their own fears and insecurities, that if their child is not going in that direction, they start to pressure the child to do so. What they're missing out on in the process is that this child has his own journey through his life to pursue. In the same way, you don't want to be prescribed to on what you do and how you do it. You don't want me telling you, Kelly, you need to do this, you need to go this way. You want to figure it out, figure yourself out, come into your own power without my needs, expectations, or insecurities thwarting your journey. It's the same for our children. It's the same for me. I don't want anybody turning around telling me how I have to live, where I have to be, what I should become. I have taken a long time to figure out my role in the world and my passions and develop myself enough to be able to own that role and step into that place and take ownership of it. My son needs to have the right to figure that out for himself without me saying he has to be a computer technician, he has to become a gentleman, he has to become a doctor, whatever it is that might be my need or insecurity. He needs to figure out what he wants to become. It's his journey. He has to take responsibility for it ultimately. He has to own it ultimately. He has to run it ultimately. I can't run his life. And therefore, yes, I can guide him. I can creatively mold him. I can contribute to the choices he makes. I can help him develop a strong sense of his self and his own value and his worth, so that he is willing to take risks and he is willing to make choices and he can articulate his needs and feelings. But ultimately, it's his journey. And if I allow my needs and insecurities to thwart that for him, I'm not being a parent. I'm not giving him the opportunity to go off and become something himself. In plants, we have a parent plant, and off that comes a shoot, right? We will always call that plant the parent plant, but off it comes a shoot, and it starts to grow and become something. Then it detaches from the parent plant, and off it goes into the world. Now, imagine if that parent plant went hankering off after that plant. Say, no, you have to root here, No, stop, don't go too far. No, you have... Well, that plant can't become itself. It may need more sun. It may need less wind. It may need more water. It needs to go find that out itself. And may it get into trouble in the process? Yes. Parent role, you have to, as a human parent, be able to contain that and say, I know you're figuring this out. In the same ways, you don't teach your children to walk by walking for them. You don't pick them up and move their legs. They get up, they walk, they fall. Sometimes they hit their heads. Sometimes they scratch their nose, cut their eye. It happens. But you don't go and manage that process. You let them learn to walk. And you don't call them any names if they fall down. You don't judge them for falling down, because what do we recognize in a child learning to walk? There's a process of self-discovery, of learning your strength, of finding out how to make this whole thing fit together, of what you can do and what you can't do. And so we give our children permission to do it. But when it comes to them doing that analogy, take them up to 13, 16, 18, and let them do the exact same thing. Try, fall, trip, begin again, learn from it, etc. No, insecurities get in the way. What do you mean you don't want to live the way we live? What do you mean you want to take on new principles? What do you mean you want to change us? What are you saying about us? We weren't good enough for you? What we did wasn't good enough? We gave you everything. We did everything. It's not enough for you. It's too much for you. You want less. What's your problem? No problem. Off the parent body, figuring out himself or herself. And parents have to do their self-esteem work, their work to know, I, as a parent, give to my child what I believe is best for my child. I do it with a full heart. I do it with full consciousness. If they choose to reject it, I honor their right to reject it without coming from a place of insecurity. And I'm curious, provided what you do and what you become is honoring of your own dignity and respectful of people around you, I honor you. Go for it.
That is amazing, Bev. And doesn't disciplining require 100% commitment 100% of the time? And isn't that why we stop doing it sometimes? It's just easier not to.
Absolutely, and it's exhausting too sometimes. And I slip and fall and trip and smash my head again and again and again in disciplining. But I have thankfully spent so much time raising my son to a level of living consciously where he knows he has the right to deserve certain kinds of treatment. He knows he is worthy of being respected and being spoken to in a respectful, loving and containing manner. And when I don't do that, he'll look straight at me and he'll say, please don't scream at me like that. It makes me very uncomfortable. Maybe you need to go into timeout. Maybe you need a break. Maybe you need... But please don't speak to me like that. Or he'll come to me afterwards and he'll say, I know you're upset, but I don't think you needed to speak to me like that. And I celebrate that, whereas other people might say, how impudent, he's cheeky. No, that's because you're coming from a place of insecurity. I have raised him to a level of conscious, assertive communication so that he can say, in the preservation of my dignity and the preservation of yours, I don't give you permission to speak to me like that. I cannot allow that. I know how special I am. I know what my value is. And I know that I do not have to be screamed at. Not easy for his teachers, I can assure you. Not easy. Not easy, because they have to come from a level of consciousness too, and it's not always necessarily true that that is the case. He's had some beautiful interactions with teachers and some challenging ones, and I think that's true of every child. But he is, thankfully, equipped to know what he has to accept and does not have to accept.
What role does follow-through play when it comes to discipline? Because you often hear parents threatening, but when there's no follow-through, I imagine the child perceives it as not serious or doesn't take the parents seriously, and so begin the manipulation games.
Dangerous. It's very dangerous. To complete the answer to the previous question and blend it with this one, we're not always parenting in our ideal form. We're not always having the energy or strength to do so in the best way possible. And there's a lot of times where we fall flat. And all we need to do is shake it off, go, Wish it could have been better, but it wasn't okay. I forgive myself. I accept myself. I begin again. When it comes to having the energy to outstand your children's will, power, oh my goodness, most people don't have it. And so they'll say, stop it. Stop it or I'll take that away. Stop it or I'll take it away and I'll send you to your room. They haven't done anything, but oh my goodness, it's building. You know, the nuclear discipline technique. I don't know where does it go to? Stop it or I'll cut your head off. I mean, where does it go to? It's just at some point, stop it. Okay, that's not really useful. Please stop it, Boyke. I don't think that's a good idea. You might do this, you might do that. Give them a context. Children do not respond to red robots. They don't. We teach them to. We teach them to deny themselves the right to understand the context of why this is not a good idea. Stop it, Boyke, you're going to hurt him. Oh, okay. They still don't stop. I'm going to take it away. You have one last chance. They do it. Take it away. Take it away. What happens and where it goes wrong is where you threaten to discipline, but it becomes more of a hint. And the child goes, she won't do it. She doesn't have what it takes. Watch this. In his head, you know, subconsciously he's saying that. And he'll push it. And then we get, I'm not letting you go watch XYZ later. Why? Because you're not watching it. You were naughty earlier and you're not going to do it. But why? Because I said no and you didn't listen. Oh, but please. No, you can't. But why? You know, and I know people even listening to this are going, oh my goodness, stop the whining. I can't bear it. Okay, you can go and watch it. But the bottom line is you have to at some point go, I do not give you permission to watch it. It is no longer going to be discussed. If you wish to carry on whining about it, I will start to take away other privileges. But at this point, the only thing you have lost is the right to watch that movie. If you push it, it's going to get worse. Do you wish to push it? Does it take work? Yes. Are you willing to do the work? I don't know. But what is the measure of a parent who's proud of themselves and a parent who's not? The parent who is willing to do the work.
And at the end of the day, it serves you.
And your child. You feel more empowered as a parent, and your child loves and respects you for it. There's no question. My son is wall-to-wall challenge. Someone read the book and said to me, I don't think you should have described your son in only these terms because you describe him as being almost an idyllic child. And my response was, did you read the book? Because I think it's quite clear that I mentioned several times he's challenging, and I mentioned that he doesn't like to just leave things that he's doing, and that takes management and etc. He is a beautiful spirited human being, but he is also wall-to-wall challenge, and I love that he flexes his psycho-spiritual being and his emotional being. I love it. I don't want to have a child I say, sit, bonk, stand, bink, do this, done. Oh my goodness, what will he become in the world? Every time anyone says go this way or that way, he'll be bludgeoned. I love that he's testing himself and flexing himself against me, but it also calls for me to be in the moment, present, and willing to stand up